This is wide receiver Jeremy Curley of the New York Jets, and you're listening to the Shorts Sports Show.
Welcome everybody to the Short Sports Show. I'm your host Daniel Short. Today is Monday, November 2nd, 2015. Welcome everybody to the show, and what a crazy entire week it has been. Both a little bit of good, a little bit of bad. You just got to look at it different ways. As you guys know, this show is live and recorded in Short Studios in San Marcos, Texas. And if you guys have not paid attention, that sounds wrong. If you guys have watched the news recently, it's been covered with the hurricane that was Hurricane Patricia in Mexico, and then moved somewhat, not really towards Texas, but we kind of get the wind and some of the rain, the aftermath. And I don't know if that was just paired up with it or El Nino or whatever the cause was, but sadly. The city of San Marcos is a flood-prone area, and that is exactly what we got. We had huge floods, Blanco River, San Marcos River, all flooded, sadly doing a whole lot of damage to multiple people's homes, including my grandma and my cousins. So thankfully FEMA was already here, because not too long ago, Memorial Day weekend, we got a huge flood, the biggest flood that's ever happened in this city, and damaged multiple homes. I don't know if this one was bigger. A lot of it looks like it was, and then there's some areas it's not as bad. But overall, just another bad storm. And actually, I had no idea. Well, we kind of knew there's a tornado in the city, and apparently we had no idea it was this close to us. It went where I live. It was probably. And I'm going to have to relate this to yards, just that's football coming out of me. It was probably a good 25 yards away from us. It just went, it kind of circled around because of where I'm located. It just went off this field, went around the apartments that I live in, and then back and hit another apartment right next to us. Went right across that into some medical areas as well. Just minor damage. Some things, fell off a roof and stuff like that. But nobody was hurt by the tornado, thankfully. It's just been a crazy week. That's why I didn't do the show. The rain and thunder, lightning, everything was real close. I didn't want to cause any more damage to the equipment that I have. Because as you guys know, it's already been a rough 2 months with my desktop being out. Which, got some good news on that. They had to ship it off because they had to follow protocol, whatever, at Best Buy. They had to ship that off, and for a third time, ladies and gentlemen, in 2.5 months, they had to ship it off, and I have been out of a computer. They said, we'll ship it off last time, and you will get, we'll trash it out, we'll junk it out, whatever it is, and we'll give you store credit, get another one in the store. Things I've been saying since the first time it happened, but whatever. So hopefully within this end of this week and hopefully next week, should have a brand new desktop and hopefully no more problems, and we're able to do stuff I've been trying to do. But anyways, that has been my life in the past 2 weeks. Absolutely crazy. And yeah, so let's move on with the show. We have a ton of news to talk about. Lots of crazy stuff happened with college football, with the NFL. The Royals win the World Series again. I was actually rooting for the Mets. I'm a little distraught. Royals should have never even been in the freaking World Series. Astros, if they had just, all they had to do, field the ball, get it out in that inning. And most likely, it's the Astros versus the Mets in the World Series. And because those two teams, it probably would have gone 7 games. But every team that decided to play the Royals decided to screw up late in the few innings and let them win. They just said, nah, we don't want to win. So that's that. Anyways, an NBA season, it started. It's crazy, guys. It's crazy. First, we're going to talk about some college football news, and that is with Hawaii's football coach. Guys, there's going to be a ton, and I feel like this is a lot more, at least bigger schools, a lot more openings in college football. And if I sound a little bit off, that's allergies. My bad, guys. Norm Chow was fired as Hawaii's football coach Sunday, a day after the Rainbow Warriors dropped to 2-7 with a 58-7 home loss to Air Force. Athletic Director David Matlin said Chris Nowell will finish the season as interim head coach. The 69-year-old Chow was 10-36 overall, 4-25 in the Mountain West Conference in 4 seasons at Hawaii. The Rainbow Warriors are 0-5 this season in the Mountain West Conference. And overall, in 2013, this has just been the past couple of years. 2013, they were 3-9, 1-7 in Mountain West. Then they went 1-11 and 0-8 in conference in 2014. And then last season, it was 4-9 and 3-5 in Mountain West. So hasn't been really good for him overall, and a new change. And honestly, the way it is, and should Hawaii even be in the FBS? I mean, you got to think about it. I mean, I know there's some other teams that in the touching 48 states that are, those teams will never win a national championship. But Hawaii, given what they have to travel each game and how it affects them, I mean, you really think they're going to continue to, win? I mean, this is probably going to be the best they're going to be, the 3-9, the 4-9, stuff like that. Maybe should we just drop them to Division II or FCS? I don't know. Because it's going to be hard for any coach to recruit there, even though, it's Hawaii, but at the same time, you're never really going to win. The Missouri Tigers suspend junior quarterback Matty Mock for the rest of the season for disciplinary reasons. Just 6 days, not even an entire week, guys, after reinstating him. Head coach Gary Pinkel said on Sunday he declined to specify the circumstances of Mock's second suspension, but said that his status will be evaluated at the end of the season. The first suspension was for a violation of program policies. He said, quote, "We don't overlook things. We don't cover things up. We do what's right. A lot of other places would find ways to get the problem solved without doing what we do. But we don't do that at Missouri. I've never done that. I never will." The Tigers are 4-4 and will host 24th ranked Mississippi State 6-2 in the on Thursday night on ESPN. And freshman Drew Lock, who's made 4 starts since Mock has been suspended, Missouri hasn't scored a single touchdown in the past 3 games. They've scored only 12 points total in 3 games. 12 points. Hence why the reason they're 4-4. Hence why the reason they have one of the worst offenses in college football right now. And I don't know. I mean, I can't say it's all Mock who would have had that offense rolling. You just think that Missouri, based on the success they've had the past couple seasons since joining the SEC, that offense, they wouldn't be in the position they're at where they're only scoring 12 points in 3 games. Total. That you don't just assume that would happen to this team based on the success they've had in both on the field and recruiting. Now, I'm not saying, again, I'm not blaming on Drew Lock or anything like that, but, man, something's got to give here where you got to make some changes, whether it's offensive coordinator. Obviously, they're not going to fire the head coach, but something's got to change. And if Drew Lock can't get it done, maybe pass it on to another quarterback. I mean, it's not like it could get any worse. You're already at the bottom. It's not going to get any worse. You got to change some things up. And that's exactly what Georgia is going to try to do. The Georgia Bulldogs head coach Mark Rich said Sunday he'll consider, quote, all possibilities this week at quarterback once again. Now, if you guys remember, Rich benched Grayson Lambert to give Fountain Bauta his first career start, and Bauta just didn't make the most of it. He threw 4 interceptions in a 27-3 loss to number 11 Florida on Saturday. Now, Lambert had won the starting job over Bauta and Bryce Ramsey in a, quote, close preseason battle. And Rich wasn't ready to say who will start this week against Kentucky. Excuse me. He said, we'll discuss all the possibilities, and though I'll say it, he'll also look at changes on the offensive line. Now, Georgia has dropped to 5-3 and really and only their victory in the past 4 games, they've lost 3 out of the 4, and their only victory was a 9-6 victory over guess exactly Missouri. That's crazy. That is crazy right there. But yeah, I mean, I don't understand why there wasn't a change, or why there was a change. I kind of like Grayson Lambert with the experience he has. I know he's had some rough matches, but to throw someone in like Bauta in that game, I understand it gives you that read option type, offense, gives it a little bit change. But if Florida's somewhat contained LSU quarterback Brandon Harris, mobile quarterback, also can air it out. What makes an experienced guy as well? What makes you think you're going to throw in a freshman in Bauta in his first career start in a big rivalry game, in a game that can save your season? Why are you just going to throw him out there? After 2 picks, I would have taken him out. Taken him, really? I would have taken him out. That's when you throw Grayson Lambert in. He's got the experience. Hey, this is your shot. It motivates him a little bit. This is your shot to get this offense going again. And if not, boom, throw Bryce Ramsey in. If you're going to look at all possibilities now, and you're emphasizing all, that should have been done in that game, especially in a huge game like that, to save your season. Now you're 5-3. You were obviously in the preseason. You picked to win the SEC East, and now you're eliminated from the race completely. So we'll just have to see. Bauta, who completed 15 of 33 passes for 154 yards with 4 interceptions, with the third one coming in the end zone as Georgia was trying to make it a 20-10 game in the fourth quarter. Georgia was held to 69 rushing yards. I didn't mess that up. 69 rushing yards, including 45 yards on 13 carries by starter Sony Michael, who also suffered a slight fracture in his hand early in the game, and head coach Mark Rich said no surgery will be needed, and Michael is expected to play against Kentucky. Sometimes just doesn't get any better. Just doesn't get any better for Georgia. Now, and there was something that, I was reading through this, that they were questioning whether Mark Rich will, his job security, if he'll stay there, if he'll be fired if they can't finish the year, since they're completely out the race. I don't think he will. I don't think he's on the hot seat. I know Georgia fans might be a little up. Obviously you're going to be upset. You're out. And given that you've lost Nick Chubb due to a terrible injury, you don't really have a quarterback. It's just upsetting the way this year is going to end. And now that you're out completely of the SEC East contention. So it's going to be upsetting. Emotions are going to be high. People are going to be rioting and saying stuff that, he should be fired. All these things that you're upset. But you got to look at it. Again, you don't have a quarterback. You're a Heisman dark horse in Nick Chubb tore his ACL. So you don't have that. You gotta just kind of throw those in consideration before you just start saying your head coach, who has been basically your best head coach in a long time, to be fired. We'll just have to see. People that might be fired, even though they're suspended just for right now, are the ACC referees. So check this out. I'm sure everybody's heard. This has all gone viral. Everybody knows this by now. The ACC announced Sunday that it has suspended the on-field officiating crew, as well as a replay official and communicator, for 2 games following the errors on the final wild play that gave Miami a 30-27 win over Duke on Saturday. The outcome of the game cannot be changed, but Duke head coach David Cutcliffe said Sunday that maybe it's time for that to change, as the Blue Devils dropped to 6-2 and fell out of a potential tie for the lead of the ACC's Coastal Division. The ACC acknowledged a series of errors during the play, which featured 8 laterals off a Duke kickoff and ended with a 91-yard touchdown run by the Hurricanes' Corn Elder. Obviously won the game. Cutcliffe said he's heard from, quote, multiple coaches and hopes that this starts a conversation that could eventually lead to overturning an outcome in similar situations, which I completely agree with. Now, I didn't watch the whole game. I saw the ending, of course. You would have to really look at it and replay that over and over whether he was down. Because if he wasn't down, he got the ball off very, 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 very close because the knee, because the Duke player fell on top of him, obviously pushing him down. So it looks very close on it. But anyways, I agree with it. Not that now it should be changed because obviously it isn't a rule, just like how the catch rule with Calvin Johnson and Des Bryant, that was a rule but had to be changed, whatnot. This isn't a rule, so it can't be changed just yet. But should it be in the future? Absolutely. This should be something where reviews, and replays definitely need to be checked. Different angles, everything needs to be in order for this type of situation. Because what if this had happened in the national championship game or a playoff game? You definitely can't have this mistake ever. So, and obviously I think they would have made sure they took their time if it had been a playoff game, had it been a national championship game, had it been, a Big Ten or ACC championship or a Pac-12 championship game. Probably would have taken a better look at it. But definitely this has to be something to be changed in the future with changing an outcome of a game if this certain situation happened. But here are the list of officiating errors acknowledged by the ACC. There is, 1, 2, 3, 4 different ones. Let's check this out. Replay official Andrew, I'm not even going to try, should have ruled at Miami back. Mark Walton was down before releasing the ball one of the laterals, so he was down. If the proper call had been made, the game would have ended in a Duke victory. Time ran out, it would have been over. The on-field officials failed to penalize Miami for illegal block in the back at the Miami 16-yard line. If called, the ball would have been placed at the Miami 8-yard line, and the game would have been extended for untimed down. The on-field crew failed to penalize Miami receiver Rashawn Scott for leaving the bench and running onto the field before the play ended. That penalty would not have negated the touchdown because it would have been enforced as a dead ball foul. The block in the back penalty that was called at the Duke 26-yard line was picked up after the officials conferred, which is appropriate. They correctly determined that the block was from the side. The replay official was not involved in the decision to pick up the flag, however. Referee Jerry, why do they always have the weirdest names? Magalanis? I don't know. Did not effectively manage communication, properly explain why the flag was picked up. All of those. So basically, the replay official, Andrew Panucci, I guess that's his name, he screwed up because Miami wide receiver back Mark Walton was down before releasing the ball on one of the laterals. So that's it. Game's over. All these other fouls, the block in the back, the not saying what it was, guy running on the field, it doesn't matter. Mark Walton was down before releasing one of the laterals, and had they made the proper call and looked at it properly, Duke wins the game. Miami does it. Now, me, which I forgot to tell you guys, I did get accepted into Miami. I got my letter. When did I get it? I think on Wednesday. Was it Tuesday? Tuesday. I got it on Tuesday. Tuesday night, after I got home from work, opened it up. Bam, it was there. Feels good. Was accepted to the University of Miami. Now, if financial aid could only help me out, because I don't have $60K a year for it, that'd be much obliged. And, I'll rep the U all the way. But, also not trying to go in debt. With the victory, the Hurricanes improved to 5-3 overall and 2-2 in the ACC. And the University of Miami's athletic department Twitter account didn't take long to weigh in after the ACC's announcement. I can't really, because there isn't any video for this, I can't show you, but I'm sure if you just look on it and just type in the University of Miami, the athletic department of the Twitter account, check it out. You see what they post. It's been retweeted everywhere. It's been favorite. It's been viral everywhere. And you'll see that it's just a shrug of the shoulders, but it's just lines that you make on your computer. I thought it was a perfect response. I thought it was funny. If I was a Duke fan or a non-Miami fan, obviously I would be very upset because that is you're just going to be salty about it, basically. But I thought it was funny. Anyways, the ACC did not include a comment on Miami getting penalized an ACC record 23 times against Duke. They were penalized 23 times, including several pass interference calls on the Blue Devils' final drive. But those calls, and check this out, Duke might not have won this game anyways. So listen to this. For all the people that didn't really watch the game or didn't know about the final couple of drives, because obviously all the news is about the kickoff. Check this out. So again, several pass interference calls on the Blue Devils' final drive against Miami. If those calls, didn't happen and Miami stops them, then you're looking at a 20-24 game with Miami leading. So check this out. Those calls of the pass interference and a couple others kept Duke, their drive alive, which later resulted in a 1-yard touchdown run by Thomas Sirk with 6 seconds left. If Miami plays football and doesn't make those penalties on that final drive, maybe Duke doesn't drive all the way down the field. Maybe they just get a field goal and try the onside kick after that. Maybe it's 23-24. I don't know. Or maybe they had to go for it on fourth down. They're back at their own 30 or 40 or anywhere, and they have to try a Hail Mary. They don't get it. Miami takes over, kneels, game over. Miami wins anyways. It's not guaranteed because of this kickoff, and Mark Walton should have been down. There's no guarantee Duke would have even won this game anyways, because maybe Miami doesn't make those mistakes, and Miami wins overall. Just saying, Duke, you got to look at it. A different way. Some sad news, but it's bittersweet. Virginia Tech head coach Frank Beamer, who guided the Hokies to 22 straight winning seasons and 22 consecutive bowl appearances, announced Sunday that he's retiring at the end of the season. Another opening, guys. Beamer addressed his decision in a statement released by the school, citing his, quote, love and passion for this great university, this program, and our tremendous fans, end quote. During an appearance on ESPN in July, Beamer told ESPN that he would prefer someone on his current coaching staff, either longtime defensive coordinator Bud Foster or associate head coach and running backs coach Shane Beamer, his son, replace him when he's retired as a Hokies coach. Shortly before the 2014 season, Virginia Tech extended Beamer's contract 2 years through the 2018 season. Beamer, who's 69, retires as the winningest active head coach in FBS with 234 wins in a record in 29 seasons as a head coach of his alma mater. He guided the Hokies to 4 ACC titles, 3 Big East championships, and 6 appearances in BCS bowl games. And after he guided the Hokies to 10 wins or more in 8 consecutive seasons from 2004 to 2011, Beamer's teams have lost 5 games or more each of the past 4 seasons, which have ultimately, kind of not really put him on a hot seat, but knew there had to be a change sometime soon. Under Beamer's watch, the Hokies rose from independent to the Big East in 1991 to the ACC in 2004. Along the way, Virginia Tech's aggressive style of play on special teams became known as Beamer Ball. During the 1990s, no team in the country blocked more kicks than Virginia Tech, which had 66 in a decade. 66! I don't even think I've seen that in my entire life. Hokies Big East titles, won Big East titles in consecutive seasons in 1995 and 96. And in 1999, of course, the biggest year for Virginia Tech, with freshman quarterback Michael Vick running his offense, Beamer guided the Hokies to an 11-1 record, with the only loss coming against Florida State in the national championship game at the Sugar Bowl. The Hokies are currently 4-5 after Saturday's 26-10 victory over Boston College. So, sad to see Frank Beamer go, but, I personally hope if they do keep it inside, the coaching ranks, and I hope it's Bud Foster. I think he'd give him a lot of hype, knowing that he's a defensive guy. A lot of people, recruits wanting to play over there for the defense, and might just give it up a little upbeat for them. But Virginia Tech, it's going to be a very attractive option for a lot of people, knowing the ACC really isn't that strong. You only have Clemson and Florida State to really go against. You can, if you can, in 2 to 3 years, build a program that can compete and even beat those two teams, then you're going to win. You don't have to, like Pac-12, you got to worry about every single team that can beat you other than Colorado. All those teams can beat you. The Big 12, majority of those teams except for Kansas. Well, I was going to say Iowa State, but Iowa State blanked Texas. So, except for Kansas, any of those teams can beat you. In the Big 10, Michigan State, Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan. I'm sure there's a couple others. A little bit more. There's more than two teams. In the ACC, and it's definitely in the SEC, other than Vanderbilt, anybody can beat you. In the ACC, you got Clemson and you got Florida State. Until Miami can bounce back, you don't have to worry about them. Virginia, not really. This is a very attractive, area because a lot of DBs want to go play at Virginia Tech. A lot of defense players overall just want to play at Virginia Tech. I'm just saying, it's a very attractive option. I think it's probably, I don't know. I think it's tied for second. I think obviously the USC is the most attractive option in Southern California. And then tied at second would be USC and Carolina and Virginia Tech. I think those are, right there, best jobs. So if you were a top head coach to go over there, I think those are very attractive options. Actually, I'd rather go to Virginia Tech than South Carolina. I would. Anyways, your top 25, nothing really changed other than the bottom half with a few teams. We'll just go through them very quickly as we'll get to the NFL news. I'll actually recap some games, and then we'll go to the NFL. Ohio State at number 1, Baylor at number 2, Clemson 3, LSU 4, TCU 5, Michigan State 6, Alabama 7, Notre Dame 8, Stanford 9, Iowa 10. 11 through 15 is Florida, Oklahoma State, Utah, Oklahoma, Memphis, and Michigan at 16. 17 through 20, Florida State, Houston, Ole Miss, Toledo. 21 through 25, North Carolina, UCLA, Temple, Mississippi State, and Texas A&M back in the top 25. And how about Kyler Murray? Impressive. Very impressive. It's going to be fun to watch him. Again, it was against South Carolina, so let's not get all crazy because remember Kenny Hill? Huge game against South Carolina. And then they kind of dropped in the second half. But A&M, impressive showing. Obviously, TCU on Thursday night got a huge victory over West Virginia. 40-10. Trevon Boykin shows why he should be the Heisman favorite over Leonard Fournette. 32 of 47, 388 yards, 3 touchdowns. He also led the team in rushing yards. 11 carries, 84 yards, and a touchdown. Josh Doxson, the best receiver in college football. 11 receptions, 183 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Just absolutely dominated West Virginia. I'm proud of the defense to hold it down like they did, and just impressive. Boykin even had his Heisman flip. He did it again. Back-to-back blackout games. He flips. Last year was against Kansas State. This year against, obviously, West Virginia. Scary, but also fun to watch. Trevon Boykin, great. Hopefully wins the Heisman. North Carolina defeats Pittsburgh 26-19. And one of my favorite receivers, Ryan Switzer. Mini Wes Welker, ladies and gentlemen. 5 receptions, 126 yards, and a touchdown. Huge touchdown. I believe it was a 71-yard catch and run by Ryan Switzer in the second quarter. Awesome job by him as they get the victory and knock out Pitt from the top 25 and take their spot. Ole Miss defeats Auburn in a sloppy game, 27-19. Florida State keeps Syracuse. They hanged around for a little while. I believe until about the third quarter, Syracuse was with them, but then Florida State pulled away as Sean McGuire, backup quarterback, does a great job really for injured. I can't even think of his name. Everett Golston. McGuire was 23 of 35, 348 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Travis Rudolph, 5 receptions, 191 yards, and 3 touchdowns as well. Colorado almost gets the upset over UCLA, 35-31. Of course, we talked about Florida defeating Georgia 27-3. Clemson and North Carolina State, great game it was. It looked like North Carolina State could get the victory. They took the lead in the second quarter with a 40-yard pass from Jacoby Brissett to Jalen Samuels to make it 2019. But then, of course, Clemson did its thing and really couldn't bounce back from that. But it shows that this defense, when it plays a good offense, it's not really all what we all thought it was. Clemson's defense, we're always talking about the defensive line, harassing running backs and quarterbacks. But you look at it, North Carolina State doesn't have the best offense. So you got to take that in consideration of Clemson. If they can hang around with a team like Baylor, with TCU, I don't know. Obviously, they can score. I'm not taking anything away from that. Deshaun Watson, 23 of 30, 383 yards, and 5 touchdowns. I mean, offensively, and they had a running back, 31 carries, 172 yards, and a touchdown for Gallman. It showed they can run and throw the ball effectively and not really make a whole lot of mistakes. But at the same time, this defense isn't what we all thought it was, shutting the people down. We'll just have to see. Oklahoma does this thing and defeats Kansas 62-7. Oklahoma State, how this happened. I was watching the first half before I had to go to work. This was ridiculous. I thought Texas Tech had it. Jakeem Grant absolutely dominated this game. 13 receptions, 178 yards, and a touchdown. I thought this Texas Tech could do it. I was hoping they would. Sadly, Oklahoma State comes back. I mean, look at this game was at halftime, 38-28. The start of the game, it was 24-7, Texas Tech leading. And, of course, Tech did its thing with the worst defense in college football. Oklahoma State come back and win this game. 70-53 is the final score. They had a 2-quarterback system for the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Mason Rudolph, 23 of 35, 285 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. James Washington, I believe is his name, 4 receptions, 200 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Patrick Mahomes tried to do as much as he could. 38 of 55, 480 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions, including a pick 6 at the last play of the game. Iowa does its thing. Their defense, I want to see what they do against Michigan State and a few other. I wish I could see their schedule. Am I allowed? Will it let me? Oh, it's going to let me. All right, hold on. Let's see who Iowa has next. They won against Maryland, of course, 31-15. Let's see who they got next. Wow. Iowa has nobody. They're going to go undefeated until the Big Ten championship game. They're going undefeated. Are you kidding me? I thought it was a joke the entire time. Iowa's going to go undefeated, ladies and gentlemen. They have Indiana next, on the road at Indiana. They have Minnesota. Then they have this is at home against Minnesota. Then they host Purdue. And then they're on the road at Nebraska. That's it. That's the last 4 games. At Indiana, home against Minnesota and Purdue, and at Nebraska. That is it. 4 consecutive weeks, no bye week or anything. Unbelievable. Their defense is absolutely amazing, of course. Offensively, I don't think they could hang around with TCU, Baylor. We'll just have to see what they do against, Ohio State possibly. Unbelievable. Wow. Excuse me. Wow, I'm shocked. Houston does its thing, 34-0 against an SEC team. Granted, it was Vanderbilt, but I thought it'd be impressive for Houston to say that. 34-0, Houston wins. Miami, of course, beats Duke. Utah beats Oregon State 27-12. Michigan holds off Minnesota 29-26. Absolutely terrible play calling by Minnesota in the last at that goal line stand. Just absolutely terrible. Michigan gets the victory. Memphis beats Tulane 41-13. Notre Dame and Temple, one of the best games of the year, 24-20 as Notre Dame gets the victory. I was rooting for Temple all the way. And Stanford holds off Washington State 30-28. Man, they missed the field goal at the end. Sad. Kevin Hogan, 10 of 19, 86 yards, and an interception. It was a leading carry, rushing yards, 14 carries, 112 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Man. Come on, Wazoo. Come on. All right, let's get to some NFL news. This show is, we're all right on time. Steelers running back. These are injuries, guys. These are terrible, terrible injuries. Steelers running back Le'Veon Bell, quote, badly tore. Things you never want to hear right there. His right MCL after his knee was bent backwards on a tackle and is likely, and actually it's already been reported, will miss the rest of the 2015 season. The source said Bell will be reevaluated today, and former Rams running back Isaiah Pead is on his way to Pittsburgh for a tryout. Bell was carted off the field and left Heinz Field for further evaluation and did not return, obviously. Bell, who entered the game with 511 rushing yards in 5 games, was down for a few minutes and was helped off the field by the trainers. But he appeared to be moved to move his knee while sitting on the cart, which could be a good sign. But overall, he's out for the year, which sucks. One, I have him on my fantasy team, and just sucks overall because he's one of my favorite running backs in the NFL right now. Bell, who suspended the first 2 games earlier this season for marijuana use, and Roethlisberger, who missed 4 games with a knee injury, have played a total of 39 snaps together this season. The Steelers and the San Diego Chargers are by far the best 2-6 teams. I believe the Steelers are the same record now, or maybe 3-5. But man, it's just been a bad year for both of those. Drew Brees became the 8th quarterback in NFL history to throw for 7 touchdowns in a single game. And guess, guys, just crazy question here. Guess who sat Drew Brees on his fantasy? Just guess. Take a random guess. Yep. This guy. I sat Drew Brees on the bench to start Andy Dalton. I was so convinced that Dalton would have a field day against the Steelers secondary. And, of course, he throws 2 interceptions to 1 touchdown in total of 9 points. As Drew Brees just throws, just 7 touchdowns and gets 46 freaking points on his own. Guys, I'm going to lose my fantasy this week because I sat Drew Brees. Had I started Drew Brees, I would have won. I'm already in the lead, but the guy I'm going against, one of my best friends, Dimitri, if you're listening, I got you. Shout out. He's got Cam Newton and the Panthers defense to play tonight. He's still got those 2. I only have Thomas Davis, the linebacker for the Carolina Panthers. That's it. I'm only up by, I believe, maybe 10 points at the most. Maybe 13. I don't know. It's probably lower than that. Oh, man, it was just bad. It was just bad. Drew Brees, he reached a milestone after finding running back C.J. Spiller for a 9-yard score late in the 4th quarter that put New Orleans in a tie 49 with the New York Giants. Drew Brees finished with 511 passing yards, just 1 interception, as both teams combined for 101 points, the 3rd highest total in NFL history. And this was the best quote this week, I think, from Drew Brees. He said, quote, "That's the last time I'm watching highlights of Clemson and North Carolina State and Texas Tech versus Oklahoma State games before I go to bed, because those games were just like that," referring to the high-scoring games. Oh, man, I've never been a part of something like that. One of the craziest games I've ever been a part of. But, you got to think, it's great for Drew Brees. Awesome. I'm glad they not only won, but, he was able to do all this stuff because Drew Brees still one of my favorite quarterbacks. But Giants quarterback Eli Manning, he wasn't just messing around either. He threw 6 touchdowns of his own, which one of them allowed him to pass Joe Montana and Vinny Testaverde to reach number 10 on the NFL's all-time list for touchdowns thrown. Manning's third touchdown pass of the game on Sunday was his 273rd of his career, which tied him with Joe Montana for 11th place on the NFL's all-time list. And it didn't take long for him to move past Montana either, throwing a 50-yard dot to Odell Beckham, who had 3 receiving touchdowns on the opening drive of the second half to give him 274. Just absolutely incredible. What a game that was. So far, best game of the NFL season, and just impressive. It was fun to watch. It was fun that I was able to actually get that game here as the Cowboys played the second game, so it was fun to watch that game. Linebacker K'Wan Alexander excelled for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and a great story this is, in their upset win over the Atlanta Falcons, and the rookie linebacker did it with the heaviest of hearts less than just 48 hours after his 17-year-old brother was killed. After leading the Bucs with the game-high 11 tackles and assists and adding an interception and his first fumble recovery in the Bucs' 23-20 overtime win, Alexander took longer to dress than all but a few teammates. He then acknowledged the loss of his brother, Broderick Taylor II, who was shot to death during a fight in their hometown of Anniston, Alabama. He said, quote, "It's been hard, man. He was my little brother, but I know he'd want me to be strong for him, and I came out here and dedicated this game to him. I was very determined because he wanted me to do that. All he wanted me to do was ball, so dedicated to him." Tampa Bay coach Lovie Smith said he did not interfere with Alexander's decision to play, saying, quote, "I left it up to him. I can't imagine losing your 17-year-old brother when you're fairly young, too. Again, football is a haven for you sometimes. It's a place to go. His teammates were there for him, being supportive," end quote. Alexander, a 4th-round draft choice out of LSU, following his junior season, played the best game of his young career, picking off Atlanta quarterback Matt Ryan in the end zone on the first possession of the game. He took it 93 yards and then being caught by Falcons receiver Julio Jones, but sadly it was called back because his teammate Jaquez Smith jumped off sides prior to the snap. But it's okay. He still got an interception later in the game to seal the deal. Buccaneers teammates rallied around grieving Alexander, knowing he was playing with heavy emotions on Sunday. Quarterback Jameis Winston said after the game, quote, "Amazing, man. We did it for K1. When a brother goes down, we are our brother's keeper. We have to be our brother's keeper." So awesome for him to get that victory. Prayers go out to his K1 and his family having to deal with that. But awesome way to, when he had to play the game, to play it like that and to get, not only a victory, but, get those stats for you too and just ball out all over the place. It was just awesome for him to get that victory and how it all went down. Wide receiver Dez Bryant didn't like how things went down. He went on a profanity-laced tirade in the Dallas Cowboys locker room Sunday night in response to a Vine video that allegedly showed him making derogatory remarks about the Seattle Seahawks player who had been knocked unconscious. This is how it happened. Late in the first half, the Cowboys 13-12 loss to the Seahawks. Cowboys safety Jeff Heath delivered a vicious block that knocked out Seattle Seahawks wide receiver Ricardo Lockett. Pushing and shoving between teams ensued while a cart was driven onto the field and Lockett was strapped down and taken to a local hospital for precautionary exam. He never lost movement in his extremities and raised one arm high for most of the time he was removed from the field. The Vine was created by Marcus Sullivan, who has a verified Twitter account. Sullivan is a Fox 26 digital reporter. Posted, quote, hashtag Dez Bryant after hashtag Seahawks, hashtag Ricardo Lockett was knocked out of the game. That's what the F he gets, end quote, shake my head. In a 7-second video clip, Bryant appears to utter profanity while he's pointing his index finger at Seattle Seahawks linebacker Bruce Irvin. Bryant angrily denied wishing harm upon Lockett, saying, quote, "I won't ever, 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 ever wish bad on a player that's been knocked out. Come on, man. Stop with the BS." He didn't say BS, but, I mean, this is a family show. Not once did I say that's what you get. I got on one knee and prayed for that man. And then he later repeated, "I got on one knee and prayed for him. Come on, man. Don't put clips together and do that." Seattle Seahawks defensive end Michael Bennett said he had a problem with the hit on Lockett and how the Cowboys handled themselves in the aftermath, saying, quote, "I thought it was a classless play from everybody down. I thought their coach could have come to the aid of our player to see if he was okay. That's what Pete Carroll would have done. I thought Jason Garrett would have done a better job of that," end quote. So, just sparks up to the little rivalry the Seahawks and the Cowboys have. Overall, it was just, I think things just happened too fast, whether Bryant really said that or not. Cowboys have their own inner issues that they have to deal with. This is just kind of adding fuel to the fire that really shouldn't be out there. Again, with injuries, there were a ton of injuries, guys. This is the last news we have before recapping some of these games. Steve Smith, senior wide receiver for the Baltimore Ravens, of course, had 5 catches and 82 yards against the Chargers before he went to the ground awkwardly, clutching his Achilles. And after the game, head coach John Harbaugh confirmed fears that Smith had torn his Achilles. The 36-year-old had been adamant that this would be his final season in the NFL, so he might have played his last game on the same day he surpassed Chris Carter for 10th overall on all-time receiving yards list. Cameron Wake, obviously the linebacker for the Dolphins, he went down with a season-ending Achilles injury on Thursday night and was just starting to dominate as well. He had 7 sacks from week 6 to 8. In just 3 weeks, he had 7 sacks. It's incredible, but the Dolphins now lose him. Ryan Fitzpatrick, quarterback for the Jets, he left the game after the first drive hurting his hand on a scramble. He entered the week ranked 4th overall in total QBR, and Fitzpatrick's ability to limit negative plays, he only had 7 interceptions and 4 sacks through week 7, is a huge reason for the Jets' 4-2 start this year. Matt Forte also went down. He walked to the locker room under his own power midway through the third quarter, but the Bears still rolled him out for the game with a knee injury. The dual-threat running back was averaging more than 24 touches per game through week 7. And then Reggie Bush of the 49ers, he served as a starting running back on Sunday with Carlos Hyde missing time to a foot injury. But Bush didn't last long. He suffered a knee injury after slipping on some exposed concrete behind the 49ers bench on a kick return. And I thought I saw a report. I'll have to check it up later and I'll tweet it out. But I could have sworn I saw a report that he tore his ACL. I don't know. I have to look that up. If he did, then that's a huge loss for the 49ers. But I thought that's what I saw. Let's go ahead and move on to recap some of these games, and we'll end the show with that. Of course, tonight on ESPN at 7:30 Central Time, we have the 3-4 Indianapolis Colts trying to regain the AFC South and trying to, I guess, increase their lead. They're 3-4, but they're number 1 in the conference, or division. They are on the road by the 6-0 Carolina Panthers. Carolina is a 6-point favorite, and it's going to be a good game. Obviously, the Patriots played on Thursday night against the Miami Dolphins, and even though Miami was on a hot streak, they couldn't get anything going against the New England Patriots. Final score 36-7. Tom Brady, 26 of 38, 356 yards and 4 touchdowns. Rob Gronkowski, 6 receptions, 113 yards, and a touchdown. Just dominated the game. Patriots 7-0. The Chargers can't get anything going. They lost, ladies and gentlemen, in one game. The San Diego Chargers, in case people don't know, lost 12 players in one game. 8 of them did not return in that game. It's incredible. 12 players got hurt in that game alone, and 8 of them could not get back in the game. Incredible. They lose to the Ravens 29-26 in Justin Tucker's crazy kick and his little dance that he has. He's a funny kicker. He really is. Seahawks, of course, defeat the Cowboys 13-12. Chiefs beat the Lions 45-10. Who saw that coming? Wow, Lions just fell apart. It was also somewhat of a sloppy game. Matthew Stafford, 217 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. Calvin Johnson, 5 receptions, 85 yards. Couldn't get anything going. Cardinals come back and beat the Browns 34-20. Josh McCown, I believe, got hurt, and Johnny Manziel came in but couldn't get anything going. Chris Johnson, 30 carries, 109 yards. He did have 2 fumbles, but still pretty impressive. Michael Floyd, 4 receptions, 106 yards, and a touchdown for the Cardinals. Carson Palmer, 374 and 4 touchdowns of his own. Rams beat the 49ers 27-6. Another dominant performance by the Rams. Todd Gurley, 20 carries, 133 yards, and a touchdown. Saints, of course, beat the Giants 52-49. We talked about that. 7 touchdown passes by Drew Brees. Vikings beat the Bears 23-20. Bengals defeat the Steelers 16-10. Dalton didn't look so good, but got the late touchdown to get the Bengals still undefeated at 7-0 as well. 231 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks. A.J. Green, 11 receptions, 118 yards, and a touchdown. Let's see. The Texans defeat the Titans 20-6. I didn't see that coming. And as Raiders defeat the Jets. Who saw that one coming late? Oh, my goodness. Now thinking about it, who saw any of these victories happening? Raiders 34-20. Derek Carr, 23 of 36, 333 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Not Le'Veon Murray. I can't think of his name. Let's see if it's on here. Murray. No, he didn't score a touchdown. So Murray for the Raiders, 20 carries, 113 yards. Michael Crabtree comes back to life, 7 receptions, 102 yards, and a touchdown. Geno Smith back into action after breaking his jaw in a fight. 27 of 42, 265 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 pick. Brandon Marshall, 9 receptions, 108 yards for him. And lastly, last night's game, 29-10, a victory for the Broncos as they move on to 7-0, and the Green Bay Packers dropped to 6-1. Manning untouchable last night except for that 1 pick. 21 of 29, 340 yards, no touchdowns though. C.J. Anderson might have regained the spot at starting running back. 14 carries, 101 yards, and a touchdown. Demaryius Thomas dominated as well with 8 receptions and 168 yards. Aaron Rodgers, worst game ever. And this Broncos defense is now the number 1 defense in the NFL. 14 of 22, 77 passing yards, no touchdowns. They didn't get any interceptions, but 77 passing yards to Aaron Rodgers, probably the best quarterback in football right now. It's incredible. Eddie Lacy, they held him down to 38 rushing yards. I mean, they shut everybody out. But, man, this Broncos team might be the real deal. This might actually be the Broncos' year. We're probably going to see a Broncos Bengals, a Broncos Patriots AFC Championship game. And who knows? But I think that the Super Bowl winner is going to be on the AFC side. It's either going to be the Bengals, the Broncos, or the Patriots. I don't think it's anybody else. I'm not saying I'm all done with the Packers after 1 game, but I think those 3 teams are a lot better. And obviously the Broncos showed it against the Packers last night, are a lot better than any of the NFC teams right now. So it's going to be interesting. That is it for today's show. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, be sure to give it a 5-star rating on iTunes. Subscribe to there as well. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. All links are down below. So whether you're listening on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spreaker.com, Stitcher Radio, YouTube, whatever it might be sure to give it a like. Share it with your friends and family. Let them know where you get your fun sports news from. And as always, guys, God first, God bless. And I will see you guys next Friday morning. There is a chance of rain again, but I don't think it's going to be any thunderstorms or anything crazy. So hopefully we won't have to deal with that mess ever again. But until then, guys, thank you so much for the support. Thank you guys for liking and sharing. My Facebook page has grown a ton over the past couple of weeks, so I appreciate it. Even without a show, you guys have continued to show support. I can't thank you guys enough. I really can't. I know you hear it a lot. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But you guys are what keep the show going. And I appreciate it, guys. And as always, God first, God bless. I'm out. Peace.